Hi and welcome to another review from the Review Tuesday. Today I am reviewing The Maze Runner Death Cure. This is the third part in the Maze Runner series. Mr. Wes Ball, I think that's his name, Mr. Wes Ball, directed all three of these films so far. In 2014 he directed the first Maze Runner, which saw a bunch of kids in a maze, and the majority of the film was centered around the character named Thomas. He was the lead character, and they basically trying to find out ways outside of the maze. And part two was them finding out about the corporation Wicked, which was called Scorch Trials, and again centered around Thomas and his kind of relationship that develops with Teresa. Yeah. And again, the whole thing is surrounded around what Wicked are up to, and about the disease and this post-apocalyptic future. And then the third part, now we get Death Cure.
Sure about this? Not really.
The film is centered around Thomas trying to rescue some of his friends from what happened in the 2015 Scorch Trials film, and now finally we've got the third part, Death Cure, in 2018. It's quite a gap, and the reason for that is Dylan O'Brien, who plays Thomas, had quite a serious injury during filming, and they had to shut down production. And so it took, I think they shut down production for over a year, so it took them quite a while to get back into the swing of things. And The Maze Runner originally came out during the trope, the cornucopia of films that were popular, the post-apocalyptic series or films that people were really loving at the time. So we had the Hunger Games and those four films, even though there were only 3 books, and we had the Divergence films, those 3, and now we're getting Dauntless. I think a 4th that's going straight to DVD, and maybe a TV series. We had other standalone post-apocalyptic films like The Fifth Wave.
What do you want?
They kind of came with a bang, and everybody loved them for a while, and then they went out because, like Hollywood does, we were oversaturated. I went and saw this with my wife in a very full cinema, which I was quite surprised and happy to see. The first 10 minutes is a heist with Thomas trying to rescue one of the gang. It's like a Mad Max-esque scene. I would say that first 10 minutes really set the scene for what you expect this film to be, and this is where the film stands for me, stood out strongest, is its action sequences. A lot of this film was filmed in Cape Town, which my wife was surprised with, and they masked that very well. But Cape Town, a lot of parts of Cape Town has this, can give this dystopian future with a lot of kind of buildings that are broken down and lots of wide open spaces, and so they can really use that. I think it really added to the feeling they were trying to go for. Where this film is kind of typical, like the other dystopian apocalyptic teenage drama futures, is in their characters. I think they did kind of tick a lot of boxes. The characters are pretty, there's the kind of relationship things that you can guess of what's going to happen. There are those moments where I knew what was going to happen next, even though I've only read the first couple of books. I hadn't actually read the third part, so there were nice surprises. There are surprises in the story, which thankfully I didn't guess everything, and I think that was great. The acting, I think Dylan and the gang they've kind of done like a Harry Potter, where the first 2 films they were getting to grips with their characters, and now because they've had the time, a lot of time, to kind of get to grips with what their characters need to be, and I feel like the director's given them time to flesh out what their characters are. They've given some more development into those characters, although I did feel like a lot of the dialogue was a bit cheesy at times, and it did tick, like, I swear Hollywood has those boxes of things they need to tick. Pretty characters, guessable dialogue, the cliched types that they're going to tick, 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 and this is going to buy us money. But I think their special effects and their makeup is really good. As you can see, my wife has done a bit from the disease that's going around killing everybody, and this is kind of how it looks. If you want to see how my wife did did this. You can see it in a separate video. I think the pacing of this film is really good. So the high octane action sequences flow nicely into the development of the story, and so it doesn't ever plateau too long. You're quickly driven up into the next high action octane action sequence, and so it doesn't ever let your mind linger too much, because if it does, you will find flaws in the storylines. The more I think about it, the more flaws. I can't excuse it. But for me, that didn't matter. I think it's a really hard thing to close off a trilogy, and to close off one this well. I would say this is, for me, the best film I've seen that close off a teenage apocalyptic future film. The Hunger Games, I don't feel like they did it well. And the Divergent series, well, I think the proof is in the pudding in that one. This, for me, is the best out of the lot. They've done it well. Apart from the last 2 minutes. My wife and I talked about this for a while, and we couldn't really figure out what they were trying to do with the ending. There are a lot of ways they could have gone. So you reach this kind of moment where you're going, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then they leave it with a kind of feeling like, oh, okay, that's what they did. The majority of the film is really fun, and you can switch off your brain and just enjoy the adventure. I really enjoyed it, so much so that I've got some makeup on my face to prove it. The action sequences alone are done so well that it can probably go up against some of the best of the Hollywood films out there. There are close, nitty-gritty action sequences that are hard-hitting, and then there are those wide open landscape shots that are breathtaking. There were a few shots that I was really amazed at how the director managed to pull them off and still put you in the moment and you feeling what's going on. I didn't really feel close to any of the characters because it's been so long since we've had the first two films, and I think had this film come out when it was supposed to, we probably would have remembered everything, all the emotional ties, and seeing it in the full cinema does give me hope that this film's going to do well, and I think it deserves it. So I haven't been to a cinema where it's been really full recently. Even in the big blockbusters, it's not been completely packed out. This was. So people obviously remembered the previous two, obviously enjoyed them, so I think everybody's going to go and see this, and hopefully it's going to do well, because I really feel like it deserves to be seen at the cinema. So I think, I'm saying I think a lot, I think, therefore I am. So I think, I'm not going to say that again. So I just want to show you the makeup. I think it's pretty cool. A lot of the zombie-esque bad guys that got the disease in the film look like that. Thanks for watching the Ruby Tuesday review of the Maze Runner Death Cure. Just a quick shout out to Vince and Al's podcast. They talk about everything from sports and movies, and they're really fun, and we're supporting them at the moment because we think they're cool, and they got a really small channel. It's about 200 subscribers, but they're doing really well, and I think they're going to go a long way. So if you can, check them out. I'll put their details below. And as always, thank you so much for watching our review, and I love chatting to you guys in the comments below. Thanks for watching.